Greetings and salutations. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I wanted to wait until I had the D-Day American and D-Day German stuff all together for Flames of War 4th edition. And I finally got them for my birthday, and here we go. So I'm going to be looking at the German unit cards on this one. You got 61 cards, which is a little less than the Americans. But in the 60 cards, you also get your standard movement orders, what support you can take, and then on the back here, you've got the units that you have. Now, compared to the Americans, this is rather paltry in comparison, but remember, we are dealing with history. The thing I noticed is the Panther, Panzer IV, Tiger Company, Stug Assault, that's for Fallschirmjäger, okay? That's pretty much straightforward, unlike the Americans where they make a difference between veteran versus regular. You also have Fallschirmjäger Company, a Panzer Grenadier Company, Armored Panzer Grenadier Company, and a Reconnaissance Company. I understand the Beach Defense Grenadier Company, these are the guys who were manning the fortifications overlooking the beaches on that fateful day in June, but my question is, how come we don't see a Grenadier Company here that was post D-Day? I'm kind of wondering about that. So if you guys or any of the crew at Battlefront have an answer for that question, please, I'd appreciate it. That is my dying question on this, because the beachfront guys, I mean, there's a limit compared to once they were inland fighting in the hedgerows. You know, that I'm certain that they were there, but you know, anyways, help a guy out here. All right, let's get to it. So for that, we've got the 75mm gun platoon, the 150mm gun platoon. Think of the infantry gun that's really huge. The 75mm tank hunter platoon. The Wesp, which is a 105mm armed vehicle, great for artillery support. The Hummel, Hummel being a translation of humming the bumblebee. That's what it is, the bumblebee. Okay, that's a 150mm gun that is mounted on there. Again, great for artillery support. Here's the 105 artillery battery. Okay, we have the Nebelwerfer. Nebelwerfer literally translated as fog thrower. These are the rocket launchers that caused, they learned from the Russians, they developed their own, and whoever's on the receiving end of it, as infantry, it's painful. If armor, not as bad. Here is an AK gun. Okay. Here is another one, except this has got the quad, 20mm. We're not going to see the Wirbelwind quite yet. It will be a little later on, but not for D-Day. Here we have an 88mm heavy AA platoon. Beach Defense Grenadier HQ, Confident Green. Okay, then the Grenadier platoon. And then, of course, they have the machine gun platoon. And notice they say the MG34. They did have them. It's not to say they did not have MG42s. My guess would be they were more of a priority for the Russian front and maybe the Italian front at that point in time. But in game terms, it doesn't really matter. They're very, very similar, kind of like what they were in real life, with the edge slightly going to the MG42. Here's a 120mm mortar. Pretty much the Germans got the idea from the Russians on that. Nasty stuff. You play a game, take the 120mm mortars. They're great. Okay, the 75mm gun platoon. This is the short-barreled infantry portable, very useful to have, capable of killing tanks in the early war. I saw a picture on that when the guy was painting his kill marker. Okay, here is another Beach Defense 150mm gun platoon. Okay, 50mm tank hunter platoon, again, Beach Defense. Beach Defense 75mm platoon. Here's the Fallschirmjäger company. They are Fearless Veteran. That makes them pretty nasty. And then there's the platoon for that. And then the machine gun platoon for those guys. The 80, it's still an 81 millimeter mortar to me. They say 8 centimeter, but close enough. Same thing for the 120. Yeah, Fallschirmjäger would be a very tough nut to crack. They do have their own, a lot of their own gear, simply because they were also fighting on the ground. And now we look at Panthers. Here is a Panther HQ. Okay. Here is the Mobile Wagon. Okay, now this is an AK gun, AA, anti-aircraft, mounted on a tank chassis. Panzer IV HQ. Panzer IV was still there even at that point in the war. It still could give as good as it got, arguably. Panzer IV Platoon. Armored Panzer Grenadier Company HQ. Okay, go with that. Armored Panzer Grenadier Platoon. Some of these cards are sticking. Here's a Panzer Grenadier Company HQ. The platoon. Again, so you'd say some of these cards, well, wait, aren't they repeats? Right, but they belong to different units. Even though the weapons may be the same, they do belong in different units. Like here's the Recon Company HQ, and that will allow you to do certain things. Okay, reconnaissance platoon. Okay, the half track as a transport. Okay, again, mortars in the half track, 75 millimeter gun in the half track. That's the short barrel, so don't get too excited there. But you have the famous Puma, okay, with its 50 millimeter gun. All right, then the Scout half track. You get the Tiger. That's it. This is the point of the war where guys want to have their Tigers. They are cheaper, though. They are definitely down from the 29 points they are in the mid-war. Okay, there are bigger tanks out there. There are heavier tanks out there. So the Tiger doesn't quite get to rule the way it once did. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't. It still commanded respect. Just ask Whitman. Okay, the Jägerpanzer IV, great tank hunter. Here's a door knocker for you, the 88 millimeter that is in a tank hunter mode. Panzer III observation post. Okay. Stug for all you Stug Thug lives. Okay. Remember in another video I mentioned about the Stug Thug. Okay. And here's our Stug. Again, these are with the Fallschirmjäger. Okay. So they have a much, they're tougher. They are tougher, but that still didn't change history. Okay, 20 millimeter light AA platoon. Okay, here's the armored car, short 75 millimeter barrel. Here's a Tiger platoon. With that, a Panther platoon. Okay, here's the half-track transport. Here is the half-track armed with the heavy machine guns. For your Panzer Grenadier, your 81 millimeter mortar. Okay, the mortar section. And then again, a half-track armed with the 75 millimeter gun for the armored Panzer Grenadier, I believe. Here's an interesting one, the grill. This is a 150 millimeter gun that is mounted, again, like on, I think, a Czech 38 Panzer chassis. I have a few of those. I gotta paint them up. Flamethrower platoon. Again, very useful. Would not want to be on the receiving end. Of course, this is the heavy machine gun platoon. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, this is a quick look at the cards themselves. I think there's going to be some awesome games to be played with this. Well, that's it for taking a look at the unit cards for the Germans. I hope this benefits you guys. Anyway, you take care and God bless you. Have a great day. Oh, feel free to click and subscribe.